In the dim corners of a modest home, a boy's life began beneath a veil of secrets. Shadows flickered on the walls, and every whispered conversation seemed to carry the weight of something forbidden. For young Ted Bundy, truth was a ghost haunting every room, shaping his world in silence and shame. Continues. Each glance exchanged in the half-light, each unspoken word, became another thread in the tapestry of deception that would define his earliest memories. November 24, 1946. Burlington, Vermont. Ted's first breath was drawn in a world already layered with lies. The calendar marked a new beginning, but behind closed doors, the truth of his birth was hidden, locked away in hushed voices and anxious glances. Continues. Every date, every memory, was shadowed by the secrets that surrounded him from the very start. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was barely more than a girl herself, unmarried, frightened, and suffocating beneath the expectations of her time. Her eyes, often rimmed with tears, revealed a longing to escape and a dread of the judgment that pressed in from every side. Continues. Sorrow clung to her like a second skin, her pain echoing in the quiet corners of their home. Continues. The fear of being discovered, of being shamed, would haunt the family for years to come. To shield Eleanor and themselves, the Cowell family spun a delicate web of lies. Ted would be raised as Eleanor's brother, not her son. Smiles became masks, furniture was arranged to hide the truth, and every gesture was carefully choreographed to protect the secret at the heart of their home. Ted's reality was built on shifting sand. He called his grandparents Mom and Dad, believing the fiction, while his true mother played the role of a sibling. This deception seeped into his bones, leaving him lost between identities, always sensing a fracture beneath the surface. The lie was an earthquake that never stopped rumbling. Every relationship, every memory was shaped by the need to keep up appearances. Ted learned early that love could vanish at the first sign of trouble, and that truth was a luxury he could not afford. In this house of mirrors, Ted became a watcher, studying faces, mimicking smiles, and hiding his confusion behind a mask he wore even as a child. He learned to bury his true feelings, perfecting the art of blending in while remaining invisible. Continues. The shadows became his companions, teaching him how to move unseen, how to become whatever others expected. Continues. Behind every smile, a secret waited, growing darker with each passing year. Ted was a quiet, solitary child, often found staring out windows or sitting alone on the steps. While other children laughed and played, he lingered at the edges, his loneliness deepening like a shadow at dusk. Continues. The world moved on without him, and the silence around him grew heavier with every year. Continues. Isolation became his only constant, a companion he could never escape. Neighbors would later whisper about the boy with the intense stare. There was something unsettling in his eyes, a hunger for control, a flicker of cruelty that surfaced without warning. Even as a child, Ted was drawn to stories of violence and power. He devoured crime magazines, his imagination ignited by tales of danger and dominance, the line between fantasy and reality blurring in his young mind. When Ted and his mother moved to Tacoma, the ground shifted again. Eleanor married Johnny Bundy, who adopted Ted, but the sense of belonging he craved slipped further from reach. Ted never found comfort in his new father's presence. Their bond was stiff, formal, a performance for neighbors and friends, not a source of warmth or safety. He longed for more: status, wealth, acceptance. The Bundy home was modest, and Ted's ambitions grew in the shadow of what he could never have, fueling a quiet resentment. Beneath the surface, anger simmered, feeding a fierce drive to prove himself. Ted became a master at hiding his true feelings, perfecting the mask he would wear for the rest of his life. By his teenage years, Ted was an expert performer. He could charm, smile, and blend in, all while a storm raged inside, a storm no one else could see. At the University of Washington, Ted threw himself into studies and politics. Outwardly, he was ambitious and sociable, but inside, he remained isolated, always acting, never belonging. He fell for a woman who seemed to offer everything he wanted: status, beauty, acceptance. For a brief moment, he glimpsed the life he had always imagined. Continues. But happiness was fleeting, and the dream soon slipped away. When she left him, the loss shattered his fragile self-image. Rejection became a wound that never healed, festering into a deep and dangerous resentment. The embers of rage glowed hotter, hidden beneath a calm exterior. Ted learned to channel his anger into ambition, but the mask he wore was beginning to crack. Beneath the polite smile, something darker was taking shape. The boy who learned to lie was becoming a man who could deceive the world. And no one would see the danger until it was too late. Ted Bundy wore innocence like a mask, slipping through the world unseen. His greatest weapon was not violence, but the art of pretending to be just like everyone else. He was handsome, charming, and disarmingly polite, a wolf in the clothing of a promising young man. No one saw the darkness behind his smile. He looked nothing like the monster that haunted their nightmares. That ordinary face was his camouflage, the key that unlocked doors and disarmed suspicion. He built trust with a gentle voice and a respectful manner, weaving a false sense of safety around his victims. A spotless car, crisp clothes, and easy conversation, each detail carefully chosen to lower defenses. The mask of normalcy let him drift close enough to touch, close enough to strike. He spun stories, lost keys, a broken arm, a plea for help, each one a thread in his web of control. Sometimes he wore a cast or hobbled on crutches, feigning weakness to draw out compassion. He asked for small favors, a hand with his books, help to his car, turning kindness into a trap. At Lake Sammamish, he smiled and asked for help loading a sailboat, his voice warm and inviting. He preyed on generosity, turning empathy into vulnerability. Sometimes he became an authority figure, a police badge, a tone of command, borrowing power to gain trust. He claimed danger lurked nearby, or that a car had been broken into, always offering to help, always leading the way. He offered safety, a guiding hand, a promise that nothing would go wrong. But behind the doors of his ordinary car, freedom vanished. The trap snapped shut. He had prepared for this moment, removing seats, tampering with handles, transforming the familiar into a prison. Alone, the mask fell away. The predator emerged, and the nightmare began. Autumn, 1974. Ted Bundy vanishes into the shadows of Salt Lake City, blending into a new life as a law student. But beneath the surface, a storm is brewing, one that will soon explode across the nation. As Bundy moves, young women begin to disappear. The pattern follows him like a sinister shadow, leaving fear in its wake. Investigators see the chilling similarities. Victims vanish without a trace, and the nightmare grows with every new report. Utah and Colorado are gripped by terror. Each abduction deepens the panic, and the hunt for the faceless predator intensifies. August 1975. A routine traffic stop. Bundy is caught off guard. The mask slips, if only for a moment. The arrest seems minor, but inside his car, handcuffs, rope, a ski mask. The evidence whispers of horrors yet unseen. Suddenly, Bundy is on law enforcement's radar. The chase is on, and the net begins to tighten. Acting as his own lawyer, Bundy manipulates the system, gaining access, plotting his next move from behind a mask of confidence. June 7, 1977. In a flash, Bundy bolts for a courthouse window, leaping into the unknown, desperate for freedom. For 6 days, he vanishes into the wild. The nation holds its breath as the manhunt explodes across headlines. In Glenwood Springs, Bundy finds a new escape route, through the ceiling, into darkness. He starves himself, squeezing through crawl spaces no one else could navigate. Every move is a gamble with fate. December 30th. Bundy drops into a jailer's empty apartment. One last roll of the dice. He slips out the front door and melts into the night. The country is on edge. Bundy is loose and no one knows where he'll strike next. He heads east, slipping through state lines, always one step ahead. February 15th, 1978. Pensacola, Florida. A stolen car, a routine stop, and the chase ends with Bundy in handcuffs at last. The hunt is over. Bundy is captured for good, but the scars of his rampage will haunt the nation forever. The Florida courtroom became a stage, and Ted Bundy its infamous star. Cameras flashed, reporters jostled for space, and the world watched as the trial for the Chi Omega murders unfolded in a storm of spectacle and dread. Bundy relished the spotlight, acting as his own attorney, smirking, objecting, performing for the nation's gaze. But the evidence was relentless, piling up with chilling certainty. A single bite mark, matched to Bundy's teeth, became the linchpin, science exposing the monster behind the mask. The verdict thundered through the courtroom: guilty, death sentence, and for the murder of Kimberly Leach, another. Justice at last had a voice. Years in a solitary cell followed, the shadow of execution looming ever closer. Bundy denied, appealed, and schemed, clinging to hope as the clock ran down. As the end neared, he began to confess, his words a final, desperate attempt to control the narrative. He admitted to killing more than 30 women, his crimes stretching across the map, leaving a trail of devastation. Even in his final hours, Bundy deflected blame, manipulating, deceiving, refusing to show true remorse. On January 24, 1989, the curtain fell. Bundy was executed. His reign of terror finally ended. Outside the prison, crowds erupted, cheers and tears mingling in the cold morning air. For a nation haunted by fear, it was a moment of catharsis, a collective exhale after years of horror. Bundy's case changed history, spurring advances in criminal profiling and the creation of national offender databases. His legacy is a warning: evil can wear a charming face, and monsters do not always look like monsters. Behind the headlines, families remain broken, lives forever marked by the darkness he left behind.